Alrighty, so now I'm working into part two of this video. This is actually the one that I'm kind of excited to make just because this video specifically will focus on all the indie games that I played this year, and I'll be kind of showcasing them and specifically what I liked about them, as well as picking the best one and the one that I think everybody should play. And I'm going to start with the first one being Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, which actually ended up having my favorite game trailer of the year. Which, by the way, is a genius idea. Whoever came up with introducing Warhammer 40k to a boomer shooter should get a raise. Just because it's such a perfect match made in heaven. The pixel art is incredible, the gore is amazing, and I love the fact that the enemies and the main character design were all sprite work instead of full 3D models. So it's really fun getting that whole nostalgia feel in it. It also just has many of small little hints and things that make it feel special. Like your character, if he stands idle for too long, he'll pull out scriptures and start reading the Holy Scriptures. There's an entire button for rebuking evil, basically, where you just yell that you're going to exterminate and purge the Xenos. All in all, Bolt Gun absolutely destroys. Please keep an eye on Bolt Gun and play it. The second game on this list is one that I just actually happened to come across by chance. It's called... It's a third-person shooter that basically bases all of its mechanics off of Max Payne, the original Max Payne. But instead, it throws a supernatural twist on it, and you'll be fighting werewolves, zombies, banshees, and things like that throughout the levels. It's made by a very small team and headed by a creative director who is named Xavier Nelson Jr. And honestly, it's been a long time since I played a game that felt like just kind of a personal letter from its creator. He did the voice work of the main character, the entire soundtrack is his own that he made himself, and he also coded and did most of the work on the game. So honestly, it's an extremely personal project for him, and it was really cool to kind of dive into his mindset and way of thinking as I was playing through the game. The dude seems like a really cool guy, and I would love to pick his brain sometime. But basically, the premise is that you find a motel in El Paso that takes you into the underworld, where you have to fight monsters and demons and save civilians in order to stop your ex-girlfriend who is a vampire and wants to ruin the world. So, wild concept, even more wild gameplay, all splashed with just amazing style and fun writing. So please wish list this game and get it on a sale, or just support the creator, and I promise you'll enjoy it.
Pieces are jumbled. This doesn't look like a particularly pleasant place to live. Another damned bride. Same story, but it looks like this one had a darker ending.
Okay, and then moving on, the next one is called Evil West. I picked this one up on a sale after I heard and read that it had like God of War-esque combat, the new God of War, and I honestly really, really enjoyed it. It's very simple, very straightforward, and pretty short, honestly, but it's definitely quality over quantity. It's something that you could finish within 10 hours, and it was just a ton of fun, man. Like going and punching monsters in the face and shooting cowboys who've been possessed by the devil and having those boss fights, bobbing and weaving different hits to get in your hits. It's just a really, really good time. It's really fun. Flying Wild Hog did a good job with that one. Alright, the next one on this list probably doesn't need any huge introduction just because it kind of blew up and a lot of people enjoy the game. It's called Lethal Company.
He's in the shower. He drops the sub quite often.
Mentioning that name, you probably already know it. It's basically just, it's fun to play a game that's like just a game. It's you and a bunch of friends having the time of your life, getting scared and being terrified of the creatures and monsters that are in the game. I really enjoy the sound design in it. It's extremely fun to play with headphones, and if you play, you have to use the game chat because it distorts your voices based on distance and how many layers and walls are between you and your friends. The big thing that I like about this over, say, something like Phasmophobia is I think the UI design is much better and way more intuitive, and I just think the monsters are more plentiful and you kind of see more action per round, whereas I thought Phasmophobia was kind of boring, how you wouldn't really see the ghost until about maybe 15 minutes into a match, and then it would probably just kill you. In this game, you're way more likely to run into something per game. And it's just, it's a lot of fun, man. You just gotta try it.
Along your way there. Hey, they're in front of you,
Oh, he's right there.
Alright,
Oh no!
Okay, so the last two items on this list will be the ones that I'll kind of explain more in detail because I love them a lot, especially this year. However, one of them I'm going to need to extend with one of the largest caveats I ever can because there's a lot that this would take to enjoy in a particular way. And so with that, I will be extending a recommendation with this, but that's only if you can meet certain criteria for it. With that said, one of the games that I enjoyed most and is runner-up for my Indie Game of the Year is Path of Exile. The reason why I'm extending the caveat is because Path of Exile is one of the greatest action RPGs ever made. It was made by a group of devs out in New Zealand who worshipped Diablo 2, and they really didn't like the direction that Diablo 3 was going, so they decided to make their own Diablo 3 with hookers and flapjacks. The reason why this is important is because that this game actually came out a long time ago, coming up on I think about 10 years now. And so with that being said, this game has a lot of content in it. And there's a huge, massive learning curve to the game. Whereas I would say Diablo 3 focuses more on the action of the action RPG, I would say that Path of Exile focuses more on the RPG of the action RPG. That's important to know because one of the biggest complaints about the game, and one that I personally have, is that you can actually have a build that you can make and it'll completely ruin your entire playthrough because that build isn't optimal or well designed. And that's what happened to me my first playthrough a couple of years ago. I decided just to make an archer and go in blind and try it, and I wasn't even able to finish the main campaign because the build that I had made was specifically not good enough. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of workarounds that players have done, and they've made resources and third-party softwares to help people get over that initial learning curve. Now, whether that these things should exist and whether that ties into the entire debate of the game being good, like, oh, this game would be amazing if you had this installed, and why isn't that all just in the game anyways? That's an entirely different argument and one that I probably won't be touching here because the one thing that I mainly want to focus on is that if you can get over that hill, this is probably the best action RPG there is. Solely based on just the diversity of content and the amount of things there are to do. And I'm not even just talking about build diversity, which is absurd, by the way. This game has literally almost limitless amount of builds and ideas that you can do, but it also has 10 years worth of updates, seasonal updates, that they've added to the game and are still, a lot of them are in the game. So for free, this game is absolutely insane. Hands down, my favorite aspect about the game is probably the end game of it, which probably has the best end game I've ever seen in a dungeon crawler type game. And honestly, I'm surprised that other games, even not dungeon crawlers, wouldn't try to copy this. and I'll try to briefly explain what that system is. Basically how it works is once you beat the game, you unlock this atlas. And the atlas is kind of like a portal that'll take you to different locations on the world, and you use that to kind of basically run dungeons. One thing that's important to know is this entire game runs on a crafting system. There is no currency in the game. So things have trade values that you can trade with other players or directly use to craft and make better gear. The reason why I think that this is a genius idea is it means that no matter where you are and what you're killing, there's always a chance that something will drop that's valuable and useful to you. It's not all just based on the best gear, but it's based on getting stuff to help you make the best gear. And the reason why that's so amazing is that, like I said, where it ties back to the Atlas system, you can get these items around the end of the campaign that drops, that are maps. And the maps themselves are a loot item that you plug into the Atlas, and the Atlas will take you to that custom designed dungeon with the map. However, what's really interesting about that is the crafting system extends to these maps. So, for example, you can take your map, let's say it's a white tier, which is the worst tier, and you can upgrade it with a crafting item up to a gold tier, which is a rare. And of course that means that harder enemies will spawn, but also better loot will spawn. On top of that, you can take another item that you have and you can apply it to the map that would change the modifiers on it, like you would a crafting item. So this would mean that the map can have different kinds of enemies that spawn, different element effects that happen, and even just straight up different affinities to them. So like one would spawn more traps, and one would spawn more dangerous elemental types. And this whole system is so fun because you basically design your own dungeon and then you try to run through the dungeon. It's a big game of chicken to see what's the hardest that you could make that you could still beat to reap the best rewards. And I really think that I want to extend just the opportunity to give it a shot. Even if you don't want to try the pressure of the league so that you're worried about having to finish the game within a certain amount of time, just try a standard playthrough. And honestly, if I get enough kind of interest on this, maybe I'll make a short guide video on just specifically what softwares are extremely useful and how they help and things like that. But if I'm being completely honest, there are many already out there that are way better than anything that I could put together. So just know that if you have the need and the want to play a really good ARPG, especially after being extremely disappointed in Diablo like I was, which will be coming up in a future video, please try this game. Yeah, so my indie game of the year is RoboQuest. It was funny because it was recommended to me, I think, during a Steam Next Fest, and I saw that they had a demo, so I thought I'd try it out, and I loved the demo so much that I ended up buying the game at a discounted price, and I played and beat the entire thing. And other than collecting a couple data logs, I ended up actually like 100%ing the game. That's how much that I loved it. And man, there's a lot to love in this game. Basically, if you enjoy Borderlands-style combat of just dumping bullets into enemies with health bars until they die without them being bullet spongy, if you love the movement from like a boomer shooter, like say Doom, complete with like a dash eventually, then you can get that too. If you love roguelikes, if you love puzzles that give you permanent upgrades, that give you really fun ways to traverse the map and change the way you play. Multiple classes, guns. Oh, the guns, they feel so good to use. They're so fun to shoot, reload, and they're all extremely unique. This game is absolutely amazing. Some of my favorite weapons in the game were the junk rifle, which is like an AK-47 that had an underbarrel attachment, the kunai knives, which were literally just daggers that you would throw at people, to the shark sniper, which is basically an intervention bolt-action sniper like from Call of Duty. The game is absolutely amazing, and I really wholeheartedly encourage you to at least just download the demo and try the game. It's also available on Game Pass if you want to get it there for free, and it has 2-player co-op, and it fully supports cross-play between the two of them. This game absolutely rips and fully deserves my Indie Game of the Year. Alright, so thank you for watching my Hidden Gems video / Best Indie Game of the Year. I should have one more part of this video out within hopefully before the end of this week. If not for sure, the beginning of next week. And then after that, I've got a couple other things coming down the pipeline. I'll probably talk about them when I finish up my Nerd Journal. Yeah, if there's anything that you get from this game, please try one of the games on my list. They're all really amazing.